Would you just look around you? This world has its consolations.
Hey MojoPlays viewers, for Red Dead Redemption 2 we're doing something a little differently. Because Rockstar only provided us with the review code after the game's launch, I still haven't fully completed the game. At time of writing, according to the in-game status screen, I've crossed through about 52% of the game's story. That may not sound like much, but keep in mind I'm also 35 hours into the game, and that's with the story missions as well as a few side quests. To put that into perspective, if I were to marathon the Uncharted series, I'd just be finishing up the second game and still have 2 more to go through within the same time frame. So for this review, I'm going to be doing this game in 2 parts. This video will mostly be spoiler free, talking about the first half of the game, whereas the second video next week will be a deeper analysis into the game overall, and to see if it truly deserves to be called one of the greatest games ever, as no doubt its fans have been expecting for years now. So without further ado, welcome to part 1 of MojoPlays' 2-part review of Red Dead Redemption 2. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Red Dead Redemption 2 is set 12 years before the events of the first game, and picks up with the Dutch Van der Linde gang on the run after an operation in the town of Blackwater went horribly wrong. You play as Dutch's right-hand man, Arthur Morgan, a real anti-hero that is ready to look out for the rest of the gang and help those he comes across, but isn't afraid to get his hands dirty whenever the need arises, which it does quite a lot.
What?
You set us up.
No, I didn't.
You did. Colm O'Driscoll ain't here.
He was here, I swear.
There's a real sense of camaraderie within the gang. They're less like a group of thugs and more like a close extended family, each with their own charms and flaws. While there's quite a few troublemakers within the group, each member of the caravan feels very fleshed out with unique personalities. In fact, not since, say, the Mass Effect series have I come across a group so tight-knit in the game that you'd want to look out for all of them. And you'll have to as well, as there'll be moments where the camp has to pack up and move location. And with each new move comes a whole new story arc that feels distinctly different from the last. While I do have some issues with the story, I'm going to save that for the spoiler discussion in the next video, but for the most part the story is very well told and very well directed as well.
Listen to me. We don't want to kill any of you. Any more of you. I give you my word, but trust me, we will.
Yeah, Rockstar has spared no expense when it comes to the game's visuals, and the game looks absolutely stunning, from the amount of details in the game's terrain to its near perfect recreation of natural and artificial lighting. The world is filled with so many breathtaking vistas and immaculate attention to detail. Plus, even more impressive is when a storm sets in and you really see the game's cloud effects in action. The weather effects are amazing. Now, this high graphical fidelity unfortunately comes at a cost, as the frame rate, at least on the base PS4, does noticeably get choppy at times, most notably when you're within towns. I've also had a fair share of graphical glitches, mostly ranging from a few lighting hiccups to characters clipping into one another, which can be rather immersion breaking at times. Their frequency rate is pretty low, but they do happen quite often. As for the gameplay, well, Red Dead Redemption 2 is arguably Rockstar's biggest open world map to date, stretching across multiple distinct environments, covering lengthy grass plains with rocky monuments, all the way to swamplands complemented by the New Orleans-inspired city of Saint Denis. There's plenty of moments where you'll just want to stop and stare at the scenery. Plus, there's a lot of things to do in this world. Just like the first game, you can collect bounties, hunt for food and animal pelts, or help out random strangers that you'll come across in your travels in randomly generated events. It often pays to help them too, as you may come across them again with rewards that will help you in the long run. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the side activities. It's the main missions that I've had some issues with.
Come on, Hosea. That feller's a joke.
And that's why he's perfect. He won't cause us any problems.
Remember at the start of the review how I said I'm about 35 hours into the game and only recently just hit over 50%? Well, the thing is that a lot of that time has been spent traveling during missions. See, the game uses Rockstar's traditional mission structure where you pick up a mission at one location, then be forced to travel with another NPC to that location.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Does feel a bit like our luck died with them, too.
And while riding out to that location, the aforementioned random events stop occurring, meaning that you'll spend a lot of time just traveling from A to B with nothing happening. The game even seems to acknowledge this heavy downtime by including a cinematic camera that makes riding seem more grandiose than it is, but it ends up coming off as the game just playing itself with nothing happening on the way, just like autoplay. Conversations will start up with other characters during these sequences, but they're mostly being used as a vehicle to drop exposition, most of which ends up becoming rather pointless. Do you know what these sequences really needed? A skip button! Why is there no skip button?
I'll take it. After all, you are an authority on not being clever.
I know Rockstar has used this method in nearly all of its open world titles, though at least Grand Theft Auto gives you the opportunity to weave through heavy traffic. But the thing is, Rockstar isn't the only big open world developer anymore. So many open world games in recent years have allowed players to choose how they want to travel to the objective, with the mission starting often close to the location where most of the action is going to go down, rather than force players to go down a very long linear path. It also doesn't help that the missions still invoke very heavy handholding, often requiring players to follow very strict instructions with little in the way of using alternate routes or thinking outside of the box. It's especially bad for the first few hours, as the game takes a very long time to let you explore the world freely. Again, this wouldn't be much of a big deal if it weren't for the fact that other recent open world games have offered far more player freedom than what's on offer here.
Buy yourself a horse.
Okay.
That's not to say the missions themselves are all bad. No, not at all. There's some great ones here with a lot of memorable moments that I've experienced so far, which I'm going to save for the spoiler discussion in the next episode. Gunplay is also a bit of a mixed bag. The game does offer the ability to play in either third or first person, and I have found it's best to mix both styles since they both offer their pros and cons for specific situations. Plus, the game at times will like to show off your more visceral hits if you land a headshot or a vital organ. My issue, however, was with the guns themselves, where variety is unfortunately held back by the game's time period, as they often fall into three categories of pistol, shotgun, or long gun, with only a few situational extras.
That's it. They're turning time. Leave them. Comb's still here.
So far though, my time with Red Dead Redemption 2 has certainly been a memorable one. The story and characters are an absolute highlight, further executed well with amazing visuals and fantastic cinematography. Though my experience with the gameplay has been pretty conflicting so far. While there's a lot of sights worth taking in and a lot of side activities to do, the automatic fast travel sections have so far been more of an issue than what I'm willing to let go of. Especially seeing as they take up quite a hefty chunk of game time. Maybe there's something I haven't seen yet that'll make this adventure absolutely remarkable, though I'd be very hesitant to call it a perfect experience. I know this is going to annoy a few people out there who are expecting the absolute pinnacle of gaming, considering the insane height levels leading up to the release. But I'm more for judging the game for what it is and not what they want to hear. And I am not sorry about that.
I had fun with you today. I was gonna say you're like a son to me.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified straight away about our latest videos.